Welcome to the Jake Murphy Media YouTube channel, the media channel with no limits. In today's episode, we speak with Sky Sports news reporter Tom White about his love for Sunderland and how he got in to one of the most illustrious careers within media.
More of a problem than actually getting to 10.
Technique, David, left foot, right foot.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's not bad, is it? First attempt, 10 out of 10. Full marks to you.
Easy peasy.
Yes, Dave Reed and Anton Tolui are with us for the next hour. We're going to start with Arsenal and the future of Mesut.
Transfers, particularly at Manchester United. We've got lots to get through with the transfer team. Ade Oladipo joined us for the first time. Welcome, Ade, and Arsenal supporter and broadcaster Nicole Holliday is with us as well. Welcome to you, Nicole, as well. As ever, we want to hear from you. Tweet the show at Sky Sports News. Use the hashtag TransferTalk.
So hello guys and welcome to Jake Murphy Media's YouTube channel. I'm joined by Sky Sports reporter Mr. Tom White. How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I guess the first question really is, how are you coping doing your role within these weird times that we find ourselves in?
It's been fine for me. The first lockdown, there was no live sport to talk about, so that was a shame. But I've been working the whole time. This second lockdown hasn't really felt that much of a lockdown because the football's on. So during work, it's just as busy as usual. And just before that, we just had the transfer window as well. We've got another one coming up in, well, only about 7 weeks or so. We've got another transfer window. And while the sport's on, works exactly as it would be. It's just that there's fewer people in the studio and in the offices. And when you're at home, you've actually got something to watch. So on a Sunday, you're watching football all day like you would be anyway. You just haven't got the option to watch it in the pub. You're still watching it at home. So for me, I'm very, very grateful that lockdown hasn't been so bad for me.
So you mentioned about watching football. So before we talk about your career, we'll discuss obviously your love for Sunderland FC. Before this bit of the interview, people would have actually seen you on a Sky Sports programme actually doing kick-ups at Bracknell Town in your Sunderland shirt, doing a little challenge. But what actually got your love for Sunderland? Because I guess in your part of the world, it is either Newcastle or Sunderland. There's no real in between.
Yeah, so I'm from the northeast. I'm from Northumberland, which actually is everyone supports Newcastle rather than Sunderland. But my mum and dad are from Durham, an area where they're from is more of a Sunderland supporting, and my whole family are from Durham. My whole family supports Sunderland. So how it works in the northeast is when you're born, you are told what your name is and you're told what football team you support. You don't really have a choice where I'm from. So it was easy for me because my mum and dad were both Sunderland fans. They just told me I was a Sunderland fan. It wasn't until I got older that I realised actually I probably could have chosen who to support. Not that I regret it, even though it's very, very difficult being a Sunderland fan. They were Sunderland fans, so they told me I was a Sunderland fan. Same for my sister, and same for everybody in my family. Really, I think when it like in the northeast, you only see Sunderland and Newcastle shirts. You see the old Manchester United shirt, but I mean, when I was a kid, everyone had a Newcastle shirt on at training. I had a Sunderland shirt on, and that's the way it is there. I guess the only problem is if one parent supports one team and the other parent supports another team and they both like football, I suppose that's the only time it's difficult. But in the northeast, you support whoever your parents support and they tend to support the same club.
And how was that first moment for you going to watch Sunderland in a stadium, walking up the stairs for the first time and seeing a pitch? Just like explain your emotions at that time.
Well, I've got two godfathers. One's a Sunderland fan, one's a Newcastle fan. And actually the Newcastle fan took me to St. James's Park first in the hope that he could switch me to being a Newcastle fan. And Newcastle won actually 2-1. Mick Quinn scored twice against Portsmouth. I think Guy Whittingham pulled one back for Portsmouth. It was 2-1 to Newcastle. But even then, I didn't really realise that he was trying to turn me into a Newcastle fan. As far as I was concerned, it was like, oh no, but I support Sunderland. I've come with you to watch the Newcastle game, but I support Sunderland. And then my other godfather pulled his finger out and took me to Roker Park as it was then. New Year's Day 1991, Sunderland 1, Portsmouth 0. Kevin Ball penalty. Kevin Ball, a real hero of mine. And it was actually, looking back on it, I think I was quite bored. It was a very poor game. But just like now as an adult, you leave and I don't care that it was a boring game. We won. I was delighted that we won. And that is the same now as it was back then. But it was, I mean, St. James's Park is a far more impressive stadium than Roker Park was. Roker Park was quite dilapidated, and that's why Sunderland ended up getting a new stadium. But it's still, Roker Park felt immediately more like home because I knew that I was a Sunderland fan. Where St. James's Park, it was just a visit, very enjoyable. Enjoyed it, and I don't hate Newcastle at all, even though I'm a Sunderland fan. But Roker Park, it felt like home, just like the stadium feels like home now.
Fantastic. And you say you don't hate Newcastle. Do you reckon that's more to do with your sports role where you'll be covering Newcastle and stuff like that? You have to remain kind of impartial on the air, or is it just the fact that because you've got Newcastle supporting family, you've never gained that hatred?
Yeah, well, there's no Newcastle supporters in my family, no. But friend, they wouldn't be allowed in. But friends-wise, the vast majority of my friends are Newcastle fans, so I don't hate Newcastle at all. I'm always happy to stick up for Newcastle fans as well, actually, because they get a lot of bad press. Sometimes people always use the term deluded for Newcastle fans. Well, are they deluded? Because they have come so close to winning the Premier League, very close. They've been in the Champions League for quite a few seasons. And under Sir Bobby Robson, it looked like they were up there to stay. And then they tailed off a bit and ended up getting relegated a couple of times. So I think it's unfair to call them deluded when they have been so close to being at the very top. I don't think that is delusion to want to go back there. So I end up sticking up for Newcastle fans quite a lot, actually. And really, I'm very proud to be from the Northeast, and Newcastle is still part of the Northeast. Newcastle and Sunderland fans they're different in expectations. Newcastle fans' expectations are higher. Sunderland fans our expectations aren't as hard. Sunderland fans, they just want everyone at the club, all the players, whoever's owning the club, the manager, to care as much as the fans do. That's all Sunderland fans demand. Newcastle's demands are a little bit more, but there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But we're very similar in our passion and our loyalty. And I like to think that I represent the Northeast, not just Sunderland. When Sunderland play Newcastle, if Sunderland win, you celebrate for a month. If Newcastle win, as a Sunderland fan, I don't want to get out of bed for a month. All right. So the derbies mean a lot, but I certainly don't dislike Newcastle at all. And I find myself sticking up for Newcastle fans a lot, even though I'm a Sunderland fan.
And obviously you live, I'm assuming obviously you're working at Sky Sports, you live in London or surrounding areas now. Do you still feel that massive connection to the Northeast where you're from?
Yeah, when you move away, I don't know if that's like this for everyone, but for me, moving away from the Northeast, actually, that connection kind of gets stronger. You end up appreciating where you're from, because I love where I'm from, very proud of where I'm from, and you end up appreciating it more. So if anything, I feel that the connection is stronger to the Northeast since moving away. I mean, I lived in London for a while. I live near Reading now, like sort of to the west of London. I wasn't a huge fan of living in London. I think because where I'm from, it's all it's surrounded by a lot of farms, and it's on the coast. So there's you got beaches and fields around me, and London was a little bit too busy and fast paced for me. So and also very, very expensive. So I moved out somewhere a little bit more cheaper, and with a bit more greenery around me.
So obviously, like you said, you live down south now. So let's take you kind of back to, I'd say, probably about 16, 17, when you leave school, go into either your college or your A-levels. At that point, was being a Sky Sports news presenter or a presenter of some sort on your radar?
Yes, even choosing my A-levels was with a thought to be in, to doing the job I've got now. Choosing my course at university and the university I went to do the best course to get that was all focused around getting into sports media. Not necessarily a presenter. Originally, I think you got some questions at the end, which I'll go into more detail, but originally I actually wanted to be a commentator. And it was when I got to Sky that I decided to focus on presenting and reporting, and then maybe in later life, later in my career, go into commentating. But I was very much focused. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it. If it doesn't work out, fine, but I'm going to go for it.
So obviously you do university, and we'll actually touch on at the end what you did in university, because we've got a question from somebody regarding that. So you leave university, did you walk straight into Sky Sports, or was there like a bit of limbo in between you, where you're applying for jobs left, right and centre, and then you think, oh, this might not happen?
No, in my university course was 3 years. After 2 years, I applied for some work experience at Sky Sports. And so in the summer, going just about to start my third and final year of university, I did my work experience and ended up getting some shifts, some paid shifts as a runner. So like looking after the guests, making teas and coffees, doing the auto cue for the presenters, basically just doing whatever you're asked to do. And that continued throughout my final year at university. And then once university finished, I was able to just take up more shifts. So it all kind of dovetailed very nicely for me, but that was because I'd applied for the work experience and worked very hard and pushed a bit to get some shifts. It wasn't I suppose you always need a little bit of luck, but there wasn't really any luck in that. That wasn't lucky. That was pushing myself and putting myself forward for things. So yeah, there was no limbo. I was able to finish university, guaranteed to get enough shifts to then move nearer to Sky, and I've just never left.
So you, like you say, you've been there since then. Obviously, you present shows. I think the ones that I've seen on YouTube most recently from yourself are like Good Morning Transfers. There's been a bit of the golf stuff you did, where we won't mention that you didn't hit the ball the first time, which is a funny clip you posted on Twitter. But I guess really kind of bringing me into it as well is I'm always very, very nervous when I'm about to interview somebody before the camera starts rolling. And that is still the same kind of principle. With yourself, do you still get that little hunger in your belly and the nerves in your belly when you're about to go live, or did that kind of fade out after time?
Presenting, I've never had it. Not even the first show. So that the first time I was ever going on air, I was going on air at 7 p.m. I got in at 2 p.m., which was a little bit too early. And every hour I was expecting the nerves to come. Every hour that went by, did all my prep, got myself ready, and then went on set. You go on when the break comes at 4 minutes to the hour, so I get on set, get myself set up, and kind of by then I was thinking in my head, oh, I'll be shaking with nerves. They never came. The nerves never ever came. I don't know why. With the presenting, it's always felt I've always felt very calm and comfortable up there. But however, the difference is when you were saying there about going to interview someone, if I was interviewing someone who was maybe previously a hero of mine, you're excited, but you're also nervous because you love that person, that sports person. Or if it's someone who you know has been quite difficult to interview, someone who maybe it's that they're a bit snappy, got short temper. Maybe it's that they just hate doing media, but they have to do it. That can be a bit nerve-wracking as well. And also going to news conferences when I was a lot younger, just starting out, being sent to like Tottenham to interview Harry Redknapp, who at times could get a bit annoyed in news conferences. Also, I was brand new, definitely nerves, and still to this day, I say that's still the case in some instances when I'm interviewing people. But in terms of presenting, never had the nerves, and I don't know why. I can't really explain that. And if you are nervous, that's no bad thing. Don't ever think, oh no, if I'm nervous, I'm doing something wrong. Not at all. Not at all. It's not a negative at all. It might even be a negative that I don't feel the nerves.
So obviously this is going to get into the advice bit, because there's probably loads of advice you can give. So obviously for the people watching this that don't know me and they've watched it because of you, per se, obviously I did journalism when I left school, but it wasn't great to say. We was making like cameras out of cardboard boxes, and I was just thinking, is this really journalism? Looking back, I wish I'd stayed in the course, because the lecturer, Andy, at the time went, you will be a journalist one day, do not leave this course. But you're 17, you're like, it's not really for me. And then I went back to do the NCTJ when I was 22, after I started Harlow Town Fans TV. And then obviously, as you know, in private conversations, I joined the Daily Mirror in August 2019, got made redundant in September 2020. So kind of since then, the last 2 months has been the longest I've been unemployed outside of education. And obviously in these current times, it is a very hard time to find a role anywhere, because you're going up against people with 20, 30 years experience that are taking a pay cut just to stay in the industry. What is your advice for either students at the moment or people like myself trying to get into the industry and feeling a little bit disheartened and whether, do I just give up on this dream?
Well, don't give up yet. It hasn't been that long. Definitely don't give up yet. The advice would be, what you're doing now, like interviewing people like me, and I'm sure you've got other ones, other interviews set up. You're still being a journalist, all right? I understand that not getting paid for it is not quite the same, but in this time, if an interview comes up or such like for a job, and they say, well, what have you been doing since you were at the Daily Mirror? Say, okay, well, I've interviewed him, her, them, and here they are. You can have a look at them if you want. They're all there. You can go to my YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel. There's various features that I'm doing on there. Did you say you're involved with a football club as well, non-league football club?
Yeah, so obviously once the lockdown's over, because obviously it stops our level of football, I'm a media assistant and a commentator at Harlow Town, who play in the Isthmian South Central Division. Right. And I also do stuff with Charlton Athletics, women's under 21. So it's kind of myself and a guy called Brownie that does all the media for those. Right,
so you've got all that going on, right? You are still doing all of that. Employers will be very, very impressed by that. And this isn't going to last forever, okay? Journalists aren't going to suddenly become extinct. And when you were talking there about people taking pay cuts to stay in the industry, in any industry where, almost every industry right now, they are trying to save money or claw back money that they've lost during coronavirus. The fact that you are a younger is going to maybe give you the edge, because you are more likely to accept less pay than what they were previously paying, whoever they are, whatever this entity is who are trying to employ someone. I'm not saying just accept anything, know your worth, but the fact that you're keeping busy now and you can knock on people's door and say, look at all of this, I'm ready now. I've kept going since I've left my previous job. I've kept going. I've got my YouTube channel. I'm involved in a non-league club. I'm involved in a ladies under 21 club. I've got all of this. I'm ready to go. You're doing the right thing. Now, if it comes down to if none of that is getting you any pay, then you'll have to look at making money elsewhere and still doing this. Keep your hand in this, but don't give up. The best advice I can give is don't give up just yet. It really hasn't been that long. this will change. All right, this will change. YouTube channels are huge now. You know, there's people who are now on Sky Sports News having started with a YouTube channel, and now they're regulars on Sky Sports News and BT Sport, on BBC Sport, Talk Sport, BBC Radio 5 Live. This is the way it's going these days. So keep at it. Don't give up yet.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that advice. And I guess for me also, and for the people that are listening, what's your kind of 5 do's and 5 don'ts within trying to get a career within journalism of any path, of any nature?
Okay, do get your NCTJ, your diploma, all right? Because once you've got that, you can apply for any job in journalism, all right? So do get that. Do work, give everything you've got, work as hard as you possibly can, give everything you have got to focus on where you want to be. Give it your all right? Because you don't want to, in 10 years' time, be in a job that you might be perfectly happy at and think, I gave up too early there. Okay, so that brings in a don't, right? Don't give up. Do push it. Sometimes people might say, oh, you're being a bit of a pest. You know, you emailed me or called me last month. Well, a lot can happen in a month, all right? Keep pushing it. Keep doing things on the side like you're doing now, all right? Everything I've just discussed there, so that's another do. There are so many that I'm trying to think of this final do to be the best one. In terms of don't, the only don't really is don't give up, because I guess on the do, maybe stand out. Now, how do you do that? By not just doing what everybody else is doing. See, you're already doing something different, all right? You're doing all these interviews, and you're doing your stuff with non-league and Charlton under 21s, the ladies team. You are standing out, okay? Do something different, okay? So I've already said don't give up. Don't kind of whinge and feel sorry for yourself, all right? Because all that time you're doing that, you could be out and about doing something. You could tweet a recently retired Premier League player or an out of work manager. You could get in contact by them via Twitter, or if you can get their email address, or if they've still got an agent, you can get in touch. And who knows, they say, oh, can I interview you just for my own show reel or for my YouTube channel, whatever, my Facebook page, my Instagram live. What's to say they're going to say no? At the moment, a lot of people, I mean, out of work managers and recently retired footballers, a lot of the times they're kicking their heels. They want stuff to do. Ask them, will you do an interview with me? I know people who have I know someone who, in a similar situation to yourself, he managed to get an interview with Sam Allardyce, right? And Sam Allardyce is, in my opinion, the best manager the Premier League has ever had. And I don't know the ins and outs of what happened with England, but at the time he seemed to be the perfect man for England. But he's managed England, he's managed loads of Premier League clubs, and someone in exactly the same situation like yourself, you just, yeah, okay, I'll do it. It was in lockdown. He just thought, well, why not? You know, I'll fill in an hour of my day. Push it. Why not? Ask. You might, if you do it via Twitter, you might send out 100 tweets. You might get one reply. You might get 20. And suddenly you're making a name for yourself in the industry. Yeah,
I guess that does make sense, because when I was at college and we had to go and get interviews as part of the course, I was always very nervous myself of what if they say no? And my teacher said, well, all they're going to do is say no to an interview you've not got. So you've not lost anything, but you might gain something. So do you feel like people need to have that bit of hunger and a bit of, not an attitude, but it's like, I don't care if you're going to say no kind of thing?
Well, I mean, it's like if I had heard, if in my job, if I had heard let's say there was a rumor going around that Pep Guardiola had resigned. I could sit there and just wait to find out if the news is true, or I could ring my contacts, get in touch with some people who are involved at Manchester City or who are close to Pep Guardiola. I can ring them and ask them. They might not reply. They might not answer their phone. They might say no comment, or they might say, yeah, all right, it's, didn't come from me, but yeah, he's left. And I break the biggest story of the year. What have I got to lose from it? That's exactly the same in your situation. If you want to interview someone, or if you want to get involved with something, ask them. If you want a job if you want a job at Sky Sports News, ask Sky Sports News. What are they going to do? What have you lost?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I spoke to you last year, and then obviously I emailed you, your manager, and at the time I wasn't experienced enough. But whether you never lose, I think you always learn. You'll always get advice, even if they can't offer you a role. And I think that's obviously throughout the board in journalism as well. So before we end on the question that we're going to finish this podcast with from Billy Mully, we're going to talk about, obviously it's quite noticeable, no beard, but you've got the moustache, obviously, for Movember. And you're actually raising your kind of side of the money for mental health. Now, kind of what was your thinking behind raising it for mental health rather than the testicular or prostate cancer?
Yeah, so Movember, any money raised for Movember is for men's health. So you've got testicular cancer, prostate cancer, and it's like suicide awareness. All right. Now I have got a few stats. I've got them to hand because I've been talking about them a lot over the last just over 2 weeks. In terms of men's health stats, men die 6 years earlier than women globally. 1 in 8 men in the UK will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 8. All right. So imagine that next time when you're with 7 other friends. 75% of suicides in the UK are men. Testicular cancer is the most common cancer among young men in the UK. It's so important that we look after each other. All right. And coronavirus has had a huge effect on the mental health. It's been reported there's been a 50% increase in depression since the start of COVID-19. 50% increase, and that was March, and we're now November. All right. These stats they're quite incredible. Now, the reason, when you ask me why I focus on the mental health side of things, I'm a mental health first aider. Now, I've done I've done a course, which was the best thing I ever did. I was able to kind of spot the signs if people are struggling from mental health and depression. I can spot the early signs. It's taught me to just talk to people, ask people if they're okay, encourage other people. This part isn't just men, by the way, this is anyone.
Yeah.
To look after each other, check in on each other, simple text, simple how are you? It can go a long, long way. And it's also taught me to, I'm very lucky. I've never suffered from depression, and I'm very, very lucky, very, very grateful that I haven't. That doesn't mean that I won't in the future, but it's also helped me to look at life a little bit differently. I've always considered myself always try to be nice to people, but now the importance of just being nice to people. Why wouldn't you be? Why sometimes you get angry at someone for no reason. You might get angry because, road rage and stuff like that. You think, oh God, is it really that bad? You might be shouting at someone or like slagging someone off, and that person might be a very nice person, and they might have some real bad things going on in their life affecting their mental health. How is you berating them going to help that? And it's just talking to each other, being kind to each other is so important. So that's why my focus is on the mental health side of things. That's why I'm raising money for Movember. That is very much the focus of my fundraising. So yes, I'm over halfway now. It's it's not exactly the thickest moustache that anyone has ever seen, but I've only got a couple of weeks to go, and I'm quite looking forward to getting rid of it. I certainly haven't become attached to it, but as long as it raises some money for a cause very close to me, then I will be very happy.
Obviously, I'll leave the link in the description, but if people don't see the link in the description, where can people go to donate towards obviously the funds that you're raising?
Yeah, it's at Movember.com. If you go onto my my Twitter, which is @TomWhiteMedia, or Instagram, which is @TomWhiteMedia, no space or anything in either of those. In Instagram, there's a link in the bio. On Twitter, I think the only thing I've tweeted about all month is Movember, and there's a link you can just click on there. On Instagram, you've got to copy and paste it, and that'll take you straight to my page to donate, and that would be very much appreciated.
So we'll end this interview on a question from a media assistant at Southport FC in the form of Billy Mully. And his question was, when you was in university, was you fully focused on a particular area of journalism that you wanted as a career?
Yeah, university was commentary. I wanted to be a commentator. And like I say, I got to Sky while I was still at university. I was able to decide, actually, I want to go down the presenting route, because commentary, I have done commentary, not for Sky. I've done commentary for other people, and really enjoyed it. But I think that's something that maybe still later down the line I might fancy, if possible. But at university, the course I did was called Media Performance, and it was at University of Luton, which is now called the University of Bedfordshire. And in my last year, a lot of university courses, you do like a dissertation. In mine, you did what's called a special project. Well, my special project was on football commentary. So I spent pretty much the whole of my last year doing a special project on football commentary and I spoke to various commentators. I asked, like I said to you, don't be scared to ask people. I asked the top commentators out there if they could be involved. Some replied, some didn't reply. Some people came and spoke to me. I came and spoke to them. Some people didn't. And I spoke to females wanting to become commentators, because back then there were none. Which looking back now is quite interesting, listening back to interviews I did with potential female football commentators, because now that is, quite rightly, that is, but for some reason it wasn't accepted. Just because it was different, it wasn't accepted back then. It didn't stop these girls trying, and rightly so. And now there are female commentators, and I don't care whether the voice is male, female. I don't care what their accents are. I care, is the commentator good? That's all I care about. I'm not. If the commentator is not very good, I might, not be so keen on them. I don't care what they sound like or what they look like. But yeah, it was commentary that I really focused on during my whole time at my whole time at university, and it may still be in the future.
Well, so there you go, Billy. That's Tom who's answered your question there. So I think that's all we've got time for today. So this has been the Jake Murphy Media YouTube channel with Sky Sports news reporter Tom White. So all that's left to say is thanks for joining, thanks for listening, and obviously to Tom, thank you for coming on, and I wish you every success in your career.
My pleasure. Anytime. Good luck. Keep knocking on the door.